Hello, everybody. This is our last lecture this term, and it is about some strategies that you can use while translating. Common professional strategies, استراتيجيات مهنية. Why do we use those strategies in translation? Simply when you encounter a problem while translating. Let's see. Now, you know that when you are translating a text, you will encounter some problems. Now, a professional translator must know how to solve these problems and how to choose the best solution. In other words, translation is about decision making. You have to make a decision. What do you do about this problem, this word that you cannot translate, or you don't know the best equivalent for it? So translation is a decision-making process, and you are the one who is taking those decisions. So you will face different problems related to lexes, المخزون اللغوي, grammatical structure, equivalence, cultural peculiarities, خصوصيات ثقافية. You will encounter different problems. So you must know how to do the following. Number one, you have to define the problem. تعريف المشكلة. Two, you need to think of a strategy, a translation strategy that solves this problem. To do this, you have to be very familiar with the common professional strategies that are usually employed by professional translators. Now, these strategies are a lot, they are many, but what we need to do here is to focus on the major strategies that you need to know. These strategies will help you solve any problem during the process of translation. First strategy is to paraphrase. Simply, you paraphrase. Paraphrase, شرح. Now, paraphrase is very reliable and helpful when it comes to solving a problem. So suppose you have a word that does not have an equivalent. ليس لها المقابل. So you go around words that do not have close equivalents, of course, in the target language, and you provide a paraphrase. And paraphrase shows you that you can solve any problem. Paraphrase also helps to bridge the gap between the source text and the target reader. So you don't want to keep this gap, الفجوة. You must bridge the gap. One of the means or strategies of solving any problem is to paraphrase. Now let's take an example which will make things clearer for you. The word المسحراتي. How could you translate this word in English? There is no equivalent for this word at all. So you paraphrase it as the person whose job is to wake people up to have the pre-dawn meal in Ramadan. This is what we mean by paraphrasing. شرح, نشرح. But of course you do this with a word that does not have an equivalent. Let's take an opposite example. A word in English. You can see it. The one I have highlighted in pink. Chief whip. What is the meaning of chief whip? If you look it up in an English dictionary, it means an important member of a British political party, حزب سياسي بريطاني, whose job, the job of this member, is to make sure that members of his party elected to parliament obey his party orders. Now that's a long job description. So this is a member from the political party, عضو في الحزب, وظيفته أن يتأكد أن الأعضاء الحزب الذين انتخبوا في البرلمان يلتزمون بقواعد الحزب. So we don't have an equivalent in Arabic for this word at all. What do? Paraphrase, شرح, as you can see in the Arabic. عضو بارز في حزب سياسي بريطاني مكلف بالتأكد من مدى التزام أعضاء الحزب الذين انتخبوا كأعضاء في البرلمان بسياسة وتوجهات الحزب. So this is what we mean by paraphrase. And of course we do this when there is no equivalent at all for the word, whether Arabic or English. So this is the first strategy, paraphrase. Second strategy, coinage. Let's see what is coinage. Coinage, and this is the noun, of course, and the verb is to coin a word. Coinage is one of the strategies that shows your creativity and flexibility والمرونة أيضا. When do we use coinage? If you know that lexical items in the target language can be combined to coin a new term. Coinage, صياغة مصطلح جديد. We use it when you know in مفردات لغوية in the target language can be combined, يمكن جمعهم للخروج بمصطلح جديد. Now this مصطلح جديد, this new term should convey as much as possible the meaning of the word you are trying to translate. So please remember, solving problems in translation does not mean that you invent a new text. مش بنألف أو نخترع نص جديد. هذه فقط محاولة لحل المشاكل. فأي محاولة لازم أكون حريصة إن أنا أوصل نفس المعنى بقدر الإمكان. Let's see an example for coinage. إحنا عملنا المسحراتي. طيب السحور, there is no equivalent. There is no equivalent in English. In the case of المسحراتي, we had to paraphrase. Now, what about suhoor? How about saying this? Ramadan, pre-dawn meal. We know that dawn means al-fajr, okay, and pre is a prefix. It is a prefix that we learned in the last lecture, how to use the dictionary. قبل الفجر. So we combined pre and dawn to convey the meaning. This is coinage. Another example, المواريث. المواريث is not الميراث. الميراث is inheritance. تقسيم المواريث وقواعد المواريث exist only in Arabic. So how do we do that? Now we know الميراث is inheritance. So we can just put a hyphen, inheritance division rules. Inheritance division rules. In this way, we coined two words to convey the meaning of al-mawarith. This is the meaning of coinage, combining lexical items to convey the new meaning. And of course, combining lexical items is not haphazard, ليس عشوائي. So paraphrase, coinage. The third strategy, cultural substitution. فكرة تبديل الثقافي. Remember, we are not inventing. لا نخترع. We are not writing a new text. مش بنكتب نص جديد. If you remember, one of the goals of translation is to increase the recipient's awareness and knowledge of the target culture. We want to convey all the culture to the target reader as much as we can. In other words, and this is what we said at the very beginning, the translator is a cultural mediator, وسيط ثقافي, because translation is not only about transferring one text from one language to another. We are also translating the cultures. And we are trying to bridge the gap between different languages, cultures, ideologies, histories. So how do we do this? How do we do this? Your job as a translator is to clarify, توضيح any cultural differences. اختلافات ثقافية. To who? To the target reader. To the target reader. Because if you are translating, for example, a text from English into Arabic, you have to clarify to me this culture, because I'm not English. I do not belong to the English culture. I belong to a different culture. When do we use this and how do we do it? Let's see some examples. A common example that you know is in English, it warmed my heart to see you the other day. How do we translate it? We do not translate it as لقد أدفأ قلبي أن, because it has no meaning in our culture. What we say is exactly the opposite. أثلج صدري. This is the culture. If you say أدفأ صدري, it doesn't mean anything. It's funny. Now, notice how warmed is used in English because of طبعا the cold weather there. And in Arabic, it is أثلج, because this is something that is pleasant in our very hot country. See, so that's the point. I wouldn't understand when you say أدفأ صدري or أدفأ قلبي. But when you say أثلج صدري, this I understand. So it gives the same meaning, but what we did here is cultural substitution. Another example, we say in Arabic, ليلى جميلة, دي زي القمر. Now, if you translate that into English, you say Layla is beautiful like a rose, مش القمر. Because the moon in English is related to moodiness, تقلبات المزاج. So you say in English, she is moody like the moon. And that's not positive. So when you want to convey the beauty of a girl, you say she's beautiful like a rose. In Arabic, we say زي القمر. Okay, so if you come across Layla is beautiful like a rose, you do not translate it as Layla جميلة كالوردة. That's not common in our culture. We say جميلة كالقمر. What is normal in one culture is strange and weird in another culture. This is the meaning of cultural substitution. And that's why you have to know and understand your text first. Remember, analysis of the text, pre-translation. 4, transliteration. Transliteration is sometimes what we do now in our daily life while texting. Texting on writing on WhatsApp or SMS or Messenger. We write Arabic in English. And people call it Franco-Arab. Well, actually, this is called transliteration. And transliteration has rules, not haphazard. Type. Transliteration is one of the best solutions when you want to keep a word as it is. You don't want to translate that. You want to keep it as it is. Now, in such cases, the translator feels satisfied to choose transliteration as one of the safest strategies, because you come across a word that is very culture specific, very culture specific. So you keep it as it is. But of course, you have to explain. You have to explain in a footnote, between brackets. You have to explain. You keep the word and you explain it in a footnote or endnote or between brackets or in the introduction to the work. It's up to you. Yani imagine yourself translating an Arabic Sufist poem to a Scandinavian reader. Imagine you are translating a poem by Ibn al-Farid or Jalal al-Din al-Rumi to a French reader. So you cannot change some terms. You have to keep them as they are. But then you have to explain them later. Of course, transliteration can be sometimes confusing to the target reader. And that's why we have to explain. It's not enough to transliterate. You have to explain. Now, with some words, they have been transliterated in English language, and with time, they have become familiar to the target reader. Like the word jihad, hijab, hajj, halal. So these words are written like that, and they don't need any more explanations because they have been there for a long time and they have become part of the language. So this is the meaning of transliteration, okay? For example, sometimes you want to keep the word sheikh, but then you have to explain what it is. Or you have to keep the word souq, because actually souq is not the market. When you translate it as market, it is the modern Western market. But when we say souq, it's the Arabian souq. This is when we use transliteration, and this needs a courageous decision. قرار شجاع. And you have to be prepared to defend your decision. الدفاع عن هذا القرار. So you do not use transliteration haphazardly. No. يعني مش كل ما ألاقي كلمة أنا مش عارفاها أعمل لها transliteration. Of course not. We're speaking here about professional translators. Strategy number 5. Translation by omission. Oh my God. Omission means الحذف. How can we do that? How can we omit anything from the text? This is not honest. And why should I do this? I need really to stick to my text as much as I can. Well, you know that the aim of the translation is to communicate the content of the source text to the target reader as possible as I can. So sometimes we come across a problematic term, idiom, proverb. If this idiom or proverb or word, if one of these is translated, it will confuse the target reader. And it's not going to communicate the text. On the contrary, بالعكس, it will confuse the reader. And consequently, it will lessen, تقلل, the desired degree of communicativeness. The text is not going to be communicative or informative. You want to be clear. You want to convey the meaning and the content. You want to communicate that to the target reader. You do not want to confuse the target reader. You remember that example when we were trying to translate a dialogue in colloquial Arabic, ناويت بيها بكام, okay, and the end of that dialogue was من غير فلوس. And this is confusing for the target reader, without money. because this is something very cultural. So this strategy could be used to solve that problem. Let's see an example. لا تدخر مصر جهداً في مساعدة إخواننا في السودان. Now, of course, we understand this. We understand the meaning of إخواننا في السودان. Now, try to translate that into English. Now, this is problematic. This is a problem. Because if you translate it as our brothers or our brethren, this is confusing to the target reader. The target reader will take it literally, حرفياً, that we have biological brothers in Sudan, because the target reader belongs to a different culture and cannot understand these intimate relations between the two countries. So what is the solution? A very clever translator like you will choose to omit, يحذف إخواننا. Simply, you do not need it. And here is the sentence: Egypt spares no effort to help the Sudanese people. Now, you conveyed the content, and this is a communicative translation. If you add our brothers, you are simply confusing the target reader. And you know, our Arabic language is full of such intimate words. Now, the opposite of omission is addition, إضافة. طب إزاي؟ ده أنت لسه قايلة لنا do not invent, do not write a new text. So let's see what's the meaning of that. Remember, we need to have a communicative strategy. I need the target reader to understand the text I'm translating. So sometimes in this kind of strategy, translation by addition, what do? We add something to the target text, which is not present in the source text. It's exactly translation by omission, but the opposite. In the omission, we omitted a word. We omitted a word from the target text. In addition, in translation by addition, we add a word to the target text. Now, this is a common feature of Arabic English translation. Translators add words and phrases that are not present in the source text. Why? Just to make the translation communicative. This is the objective. Example, في قوله تعالى: ولا تصعر خدك للناس ولا تمشي في الأرض مرحا إن الله لا يحب كل مختال فخور. صدق الله العظيم. من سورة لقمان الآية رقم 18. Look at the English translation. You know, of course, perhaps first I have to explain the Arabic to you. Okay. لا تصعر خدك للناس. لا تصعر خدك للناس means لا أعرض عن الناس وأدير وجهي عنهم في تعالي واحتقار. One of the finest advices in Quran. So how to translate تسعر؟ تسعر تتضمن لوي الوجه والإعراض مع التحقير والتعالي. How to translate this in English? Turn not thy cheek away from men. Okay. Actually, this is the first meaning of تسعر. إن أنا أدير وجهي أو أعرض عن الناس. Turn not thy cheek away from men. طب فين الاحتقار والتعالي؟ In scorn. Turn not thy cheek away from men in scorn. تم إضافة in scorn لتوضيح معنى تسعر، لتوضيح معنى كمان النهي عن ذلك الفعل. This is the meaning of addition. فلما بيحصل addition, you are not inventing a new text. No, you are communicating the meaning to the target reader by adding a word. توصل نفس المعنى. So, we have translation by addition and the opposite, translation by omission. What is the aim of this? To render the translation more communicative. We also have transliteration, which is writing Arabic words in English as they are. We have the cultural substitution, coinage, and paraphrase. 6 strategies. You can use more than one strategy while translating, but the point is, first you have to define the problem, then you have to think of a translation strategy that solves this problem, which means you have to make a decision. A professional translator is responsible for the text. You have to make a decision, and this decision must be very convincing. Must be very convincing and very clear. And this decision should also be the only solution. And that was our last class this term, Common Professional Strategies. Remember, please, that you cannot choose your strategies without having analyzed the text. That's why analysis of the text is very important.